Good morning, everyone. Nice to see so many of you here. I'm Ashley, and I lead Financial Narrative. I'm very excited to lead a conversation today, really about customer engagement, loyalty, how those things tie together, and how we drive those things, whether in a business-to-business or business-to-consumer context. I think it's a really important conversation for our members to have because how you're engaging with customers has shifted over the past few years, right? Whether that's through digital channels, whether that's through key in-person events, whether that's through one-on-one direct interactions. There are a lot of different ways that companies are driving engagement and driving loyalty through their customers. As we all know, it's especially important to retain our customers. So when we think about engagement, we think about loyalty and where those things intersect. I think that's also a really important conversation for our community. Today, we're going to talk with a few experts in the field. I've got with me Beth McCoy. She's the president of RewardOps, and she's going to tell us a little bit about what RewardOps does in just a second, as well as Judith Flynn. She is the head of corporate communications at Digital President at Federal Credit Union. Thank you both so much for joining me today. Can you each share just a little bit about your professional background and how that intersects and how that's worked with customer engagement? Beth, I called you first, so you go first.
Okay. Hi, Ashley. Good morning. Great to be here. So I'm Beth McCoy, president of RewardOps. RewardOps is a Toronto-based software company operating in North America. Our software as a service engagement platform offers simple modular solutions to launch programs that deliver superior experiences and access to top brands and retailers. In terms of my background, I began my career in the airline industry, where I first connected with colleagues that were managing the airline's loyalty program. One of them later joined an external loyalty firm and then ultimately hired me away into the wild and wonderful world of consumer loyalty. So nearly 20 years later, I've built expertise in developing comprehensive loyalty solutions. I've helped launch and grow two loyalty startups and worked with several large North American brands, mainly in the financial and travel industries.
Wonderful. And I'll go ahead and have Judy give her introduction as well.
Thanks, Ashley. It's really nice to be here today. So Judith Flynn, I'm the head of corporate communications, vice president here at Digital Federal Credit Union, or DCU, as we're commonly known. So I kind of have a little bit of a different background for a communications person. I actually started my career out on Wall Street proper. I was a sell-side equity research analyst for Latin American telecom and technology, and then eventually changed careers into communications. I was first in the agency world. I worked at Edelman, I worked at Craig, Gavin Anderson, and also helped start up, a smaller bespoke financial communications firm called Bryant Park Financial Communications. And then maybe about a decade ago or so, I switched over to in-house. I was actually at PGIM at Prudential, heading up media relations for their quantitative equities and their fundamental equities in the mutual fund arm. And eventually made my way here to DCU, where I've been here for about 2 years now. When I came on board, we were definitely in a moment of transformation. We had just welcomed our CEO, Shruti Miyashiro. She started in August of 2022. And so a lot going on. The communications function just needed to be completely built from the ground up and completely recast in a lot of ways. And there's a lot of focus on our customers. We call them members here. And I work very, very closely with my colleagues in member growth and acquisition, member engagement, marketing, and then also on the front lines in our branches and our call centers.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So kind of a lot of ways that both of your careers have intersected with client engagement. And we have Jaime is trying to join, Jaime Kalfus from PGIM. She's the Vice President of Brand Strategy and Advertising at Prudential. She's trying to join, but she's having technical issues. I'm sure none of you have dealt with firewalls at your various financial organizations before. There's right on cue, Jaime. Wow.
Really?
Okay. Well, we all have firewall issues. There's exactly 0 people on this call who do not have a lot of security protocols on their technology. So welcome, Jaime. I'm glad you were able to get through yours. Would you tell us a little bit about your current role and how that intersects with customer engagement?
Yeah, so thank you. It's nice to finally be here, even on my phone. So I'm Jaime Kalfus. I work at PGIM, the asset management arm of Prudential. And my current role is brand strategy and advertising and engagement for the PGIM business. And that requires engagement in all different ways, because some people do think only of engagement as digital, but really as a brand, holistic, brand steward, we think about all the ways that people engage with our brand, whether it's in person at an event, whether it's on our website, whether it's through a direct mail piece that we might be sending out, and what are the ways that we can help them better understand what we do and deepen the relationship that we have with them.
That's great. Well, and it's really an all-around kind of thing. In fact, we're right about to jump into this. So, Jaime, I'm actually going to ask you to give the first answer on this one, because you led into it so perfectly with your introduction. So when we talk about engagement, there's sort of a variety of different things that we can be talking about, different and for different audiences, different ways to engage. And engagement's a big part of our roles, but how are you defining it? And if you can provide 1 or 2 examples of engagements that you've seen that have been really successful, I'd love that too. But how are you defining engagement?
Yeah, to me, there's sort of this overarching, probably just human way to think about engagement, which is, a brand is not only trying to capture a person's attention, but trying to trigger the desired action. So we need to provide insights, content, tools, information, anything of value, so that over time people begin to take more and more of their precious time and do more and more actions with us. And that ultimately, hopefully, drives our business goals. So things that are really, at the end of the day, helping us grow. But I think about, of course, digital is the most trackable in many ways engagement. That is why I think people default there first as to, great things that we do. The content, we're a content-led organization. We want to be seen as a thought leader. So of course we put a lot of that out in digital places and spaces, and we look for traffic to our website and what people do when they get to our website. But I'll share 2 other engagements that I think are maybe a little more fun. So we're a sponsor of Milken, and we have 2 spaces there that we do very different things with. One is a meeting space, and we asked if outside our meeting space we could get an extra little hallway area that's in a high traffic place, and we provided a recharge station. So all the plugs and things and that you would need, and chairs and water and all the things that could help you recharge when you're at a very aggressively scheduled, conference. So that's one way to engage with people and give them something that they need. I'll say the other side of it is we sponsored the puppy playtime. And we had a lot of banners and things that we made purposely social friendly, so people could stand in front of them and take pictures. And they had messages like "my favorite tailwind," and things that related to asset management in the messaging. But they were playing with puppies that were up for adoption, and they were taking pictures of that in front of these really cute signs and putting it out on social. And that gave us a lot of, earned engagement at a conference. So, we try and look at it from all perspectives of how we can get people to spend time with us and engage with us in all different ways.
That's great. I love that. Puppies. That's a good way to start it. Beth, do you want to talk a little bit about engagement and kind of how you're defining that? I know you've spent a good portion of your career focusing.
Yeah. So similar to Jaime, engagement's it's the ongoing interactions between a brand and its customers, and with the intent to build strong, meaningful connection that drives long-term value for both stakeholders. And I think that some of the, there's a lot of examples of where engagement is doing really well, or has been done really well. And I look at it, of course, from a loyalty lens, and what's out there from a loyalty perspective, loyalty programs. And I think it's interesting to kind of go back and look at sort of some of the initial sort of loyalty programs that were out there. And that was in the airline industry. So over 40 years ago, the first frequent flyer program launched. And so airlines have continued to iterate. Other industries have definitely entered into the loyalty space. It's not to say the airlines are the only ones, but I think it's interesting to look at just some of the core offerings that airline programs offered. And one of the key pieces is personalization. So offering sort of that value add, talking to customers, tailored to different to customers. So I think personalization is definitely a key part of it. That's all data driven. Airlines collect a lot of data. Banks have a lot of data. So it's easy to sort of kind of mine that data to pick up on different offers that appeal to members from a redemption and an earn opportunity. One of the other elements I think that is just the simplicity and the flexibility that comes through in a loyalty program. So it needs to be easy to understand, simple to redeem. People need to know it's there. I was talking with someone a few days ago who's member of a smaller sort of credit union program, and he didn't even know. He was talking to me. He said, "I didn't even know until a while ago that I actually had a points program attached to some of my banking tools." So he'd been a member for years, but didn't even know it was out there. So one of examples where a very demonstration of simplicity and flexibility was a large Canadian-based client that we started working with a few years ago. They came to us just looking for an overhaul and refresh of their program. They had sort of that static rewards catalog of merchandise and gift cards. The website that the members interacted with was dated. Everything was just sort of tired, and they wanted to simplify and refresh. So we kind of went back to basics. We gave them a brand new branded store that members could shop with. We went to sort of the basic kind of gift card catalog for them. And over the course of months, as they've seen members interact with that program, they've started adding in more things. So unique gift card offerings, some local content, which is a great way to connect with the local community. And they've also started adding in options for members to redeem their rewards for a variety of financial products, such as credit card purchases, statement credits, that type of thing. And so we're just continuing to add on to that program for them. We're looking at offering in merchandise redemption as well. So I think that's an example of just something that's simple, very simple, straightforward, and it's been a great success for them.
Yeah, I love that. I think this simplicity, flexibility, and you make the point about visibility. I think there are so many people who are interacting with brands and with financial brands who, the brand is trying to do something really great for their customers, and they built this fantastic program, but the visibility of the programs sometimes, I have no idea if my bank has a reward program. The person who does marketing for my bank should ask. But I think it's a really interesting question. So Judy, tell us a little bit about how you're defining engagement. I know in the credit union space, it sort of has its own unique flair.
Yeah, and I think, Jaime and Beth, you both, I mean, we're definitely kindred spirits here, because you hit on two things I was going to talk about, was just about having more of these, like, content-led thought leadership, and having more of these human connections, and also personalization. We are definitely a content and metrics-driven communications function here at DCU. And, I've been sitting in this seat now for about 20 months. And when I first started to build up the function, it was really about, given that we're a credit union, and there is such a human attachment to credit unions by the members. One of the first things that when I came on board was, they said, look, we need to start just telling stories about the people that make up DCU, whether that's our members, whether it's our employees, which, by the way, every employee is a member, and also about how they work together to achieve financial wellness. We have put together some really great content vehicles, like a feature that right now it's just internal, but we're looking at making it more external, something called Tales from the Frontline, where we get these really great stories about how our members come in and say, I had this horrible problem, and I went into the branch, or I got on the line with the call center, and this particular DCU employee helped me. And that's really been very central to our communications function, in terms of how we are engaging with our members. But it is also about personalization. My communications team, we roll up to the experience team, which is what we call marketing around here. And my colleagues here in member engagement and member growth and acquisition, they actually started to put together these member personas. So it's about 5 different personas that kind of talk about the main segments of our members, and it really brings these member segments to life. There's a backstory. There's actual, like, pictures. This is all internal for now, so I can't not much I can tell you right now. But at some point we are going to be going more external, I think. But it's really, that was done so that all of our employees really can visualize the people that they're working with, and that the people that they are trying to help and that they're trying to serve, so that they become human beings, which they are, obviously. And it's not just, hey, it's just another number on our 1.2 million members. So those are the things that are really kind of driving what our member engagement is. And I know when we were on some of the prep calls, I talked with you, Ashley, and with Jaime and Beth also, just about how, for us, it's also going back to the basics, where it's about really listening to our members and, acknowledging when there's an issue that we need to help them with. And it seems so simple, but it goes such a long way. And we have found all sorts of ways to make sure that we're engaging with our members in that way, whether it's digitally, through, any one of our communications channels, or if it's just with helping kind of bolster talking point scripts and things like that, and FAQs for our frontlines team members who are in the branches or who are in the call centers.
Absolutely. You guys have a lot of different touch points where people really care very much about how they're interacting with their credit union. We're going to talk a little bit too about some of the things that we were talking about in prep. Those engagements that are positive, the ones that need a little bit of help and can be turned from negative to positive, et cetera. So we'll talk about those as we go through as well. Let's talk just a little bit about the balance. One of the things we've seen, probably over the course, I guess, the past 20 years. So for quite a while now, is a shift from engagement being something that's done in person to engagement that's being something done digitally, and a blend, right? So, and I think most of us are sitting at a blend. I know, Jaime, you're sitting from more of a B2B context. Judith, you're sitting much more B2C. Beth, you sit right in the middle. I think you do a bit of both. So would one of you like to talk a little bit about the balance between digital and in person, and how you think that impacts sort of the overall picture of how you're engaging with your customers?
Sure. I'll say, we were always a digital first marketer since I've been here. I've been at PGIM for 5 years, but with a ours is a relationship business. So with a very strong in-person component to obviously sales, but also marketing. And then the pandemic hit and the shift went, all the way to digital. And I think there were some positives there in terms of the tools that our organization put in place that allows for much greater use of the good parts of digital. And we're a global brand. So it also, I think, brought a lot of us, much closer together internally, as well as with, clients who don't live in our, home markets, let's say. So I think there was a lot of positive there, but, we've over the last probably 18 months have really been going back to a better balance between those, trying to keep the good parts of what, happened during the pandemic to enhance our digital capabilities and enhance people's comfort with what we do digitally. But, our audience is often sometimes older. So I think even their skill set elevated over the pandemic for what they were, again, comfortable doing digitally. But there's a real hunger, both from our team and from our clients, to be in person together and to go to events and to connect and network and enjoy the company of and have the kinds of conversations that can only take place in person. So I think, we've really this year, I think our events budget, I think, have now been sort of brought back up, and we're definitely looking for more opportunities in our global markets to come together in person.
Yeah. And I will say from the financial narrative side, we've been seeing that a lot too. Even though we were strong during the pandemic and we digitally brought everyone together for group therapy. Events. Events, not group therapy, as we navigated as computers. But yes, that hunger for being in person, like we have had to maintain the balance as well. Beth, I'm interested to hear your point of view on this one, in terms of, you're doing a lot of work on digital. How are people bringing that? I'm curious if you see people leveraging that in the in-person as well.
Yeah, so obviously interaction with a loyalty program is online, but it does have to be omni-channel. To Jaime's point, there are a lot. There's that older generation that wants to interact wants to have that human contact. So from our perspective, there's a couple of different areas where that happens. We do tier 1 customer service for a lot of our clients. So we do get for some programs, we do get that that older generation calling in to even place a reward or place an order with us. So that's an area for us to connect with them in person, with members as well. And then some of our clients are using the loyalty sort of program as sort of a talking point, even when as an outreach program, an outreach point. But also if someone does go into a branch or a physical location for the brand, it's also a discussion point there as well to talk about the loyalty program.
That's great. All right, and I promise we won't do full roundtable on every question, but for these, Judy, I'd love if you'd talk to us a little bit about how you view the digital versus in person as well. You guys have a lot of touch points on both sides, I would think.
We do. I would say that we're fully 50-50. We obviously have an extensive branch footprint in Massachusetts and New Hampshire. Even though I'm always very careful to say this, we are not just a New England credit union. We are a nationwide credit union. And we also have our call centers. I won't dwell too much on this. I had referenced earlier about how, I work very closely with the leadership on the front lines, so that we make sure that we're always getting the best information, scripts, talking points, FAQs for our folks who are on the front lines, because that's probably one of the hardest jobs here at DCU, or at any financial services firm that's got branches and call centers. And we want to make sure that they're always well armed and they're well supported. But it also goes beyond, if we're talking more about the non-digital, we also have a very strong presence in our communities with our community impact and our volunteerism programs. One thing that we do, again, more in the New Hampshire and the Massachusetts area, because it's within our branch footprint, but we do these shred events. And, you might think like, oh, great, so it's a shred event. It's kind of one-dimensional, but it actually isn't, because we also tie it up with asking, anybody who's going to come and bring their paper that needs to be shredded. We also ask them to bring things like diapers or canned goods and things like that for some of the local food banks and whatnot, those kinds of organizations that we work closely with. But also, it is, one thing that we hit home to our members who participate in these is that this is about security as well.
Mm-hmm.
Fraud is obviously a huge issue for any financial services firm. Cybersecurity is a big issue these days too. And so that's something that we hit home to our members, and our messaging is, come out for this community event, bring some contributions so that you can help these organizations that are right here in your backyard. Oh, and by the way, this is a really good way for you to make sure that your identity is safe and that any of your banking information or any other sort of sensitive data is safe, and we're helping you to do that with these shred events. And Ashley, like you noted, we've got all of the typical digital channels that everybody else does. We're on LinkedIn, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, X, and so we are really, that content I was referencing before about telling stories, we send it out through those sorts of channels as well. But we do think about it 50-50 in terms of digital and non-digital.
That's great. We're getting some fantastic questions over in the chat, but I am going to continue with a couple more questions, and then we're going to jump to audience questions right after that. So but keep sending the questions in so that we have them ready to go as we jump into the audience question section. Beth, you have been almost exclusively in customer engagement and loyalty throughout your career. It's really been your area of focus. Tell me about strategies, trends in that area that you found particularly interesting. It could be inside or outside of finance. We love to take inspiration from both.
Okay. So I think the goal that we're really going after is what we've been talking about: create that personal value, increase member satisfaction, and drive the behavior that boosts share of wallet, transaction frequency, and overall spending. And an example that comes to mind that accomplishes this and sort of stitches it all together is a solution we implemented with a large Canadian-based client. The core of the program is an integrated redemption and shopping experience, allowing members to maximize the value of their points. It's a branded site that looks and feels like an e-commerce store. Key marketing components such as the carousels, areas for featured products, shopping cart, and the rewards and retail offering is highly curated and refreshed frequently by our rewards team. So you're getting the latest and greatest branding, merchandise, gift cards, experience. So it's really inviting. I was running my talk track past my husband last night, and he's like, "Oh, it's kind of like the good music in a department store. It's enticing. It sets the ambiance." So it's inviting. Someone wants to go on there. So a member can go onto that site, redeem their points for merchandise, gift cards, experiences, or they can also shop and earn on the site. So this is a little bit unique. This solution is a little bit unique. Typically, sort of the redemption and earn are separate sites or parts of a program. So having this pulled together reduces friction for the member when they go on to shop. So the way it works, say, for example, a member might be looking for an Apple item. They would navigate over to the Apple category, and from there they can choose from a variety of different purchasing options. They can redeem their points for the item, providing they have a sufficient balance. They can choose to pay with cash and points if they don't want to use all their points or they need to top up. Or they may decide to link through to apple.com, which is the actual Apple e-commerce site, and purchase the item there, earning points on that purchase. So So it's an engaging way and offering flexibility to the member where they can choose the option that provides the best value for them at that time. So I think that's and kind of meets members where they're at and gives them that flexibility.
And you mentioned earlier that you're using a lot of data to create sort of more curated, personalized experiences. Can you just elaborate on that a little bit? Like how, in that example, if it applies in that example, would I be served something different than Jaime would be served, for example?
Yeah, there's a way. There is a way to do based on tiering and segmentation, and so that all is data driven. So we do a lot of looking at the member behavior when they're on the site, where are they navigating to, sort of those kind of classic website analytics. But there's a lot that we can pull out of that. And then we're also looking at spend and earn habits. So what are popular items? What retailers are members shopping at? And then we can create different targeted offers from that. So whether we're actually contacting them with maybe not a different offer, but just putting different items in front of them. So we mine a lot of the data to pull that together to make it unique to the Ashleys and the Judys and the Jamies of the world.
That's great. I love that. So Jaime, you bring in a different point of view. So you're currently very focused on B2B engagement. I know you've also had a strong B2C background, so you've kind of got both. Tell me how you view audience engagement differently from those two perspectives, if you view it differently from those two perspectives.
Yeah, you could probably tell I use this word, a couple of times, which is, I still think there's humans at the end of every, marketing or advertising activity that we do. So there are certain things that I think are inherent in what we offer to people and how we bring them value. But I do think there's a lot of differences. And I almost think that it takes a little bit more creativity to do all of this on the B2B side, only because the regulations, the compliance, the legal limitations are often higher bars on the B2B side. There are longer sales cycles. There are often more decision makers, committees that are making these decisions. So you really have to try to understand the needs and the different sort of tasks that are involved in making a decision for the different people on the committee and what they need to see and hear from you. So I find, establishing our credentials, our credibility, building trust, demonstrating solutions, bringing value to the B2B side. I find it fun because I think it's a big challenge. I will say there are times I really miss the B2C world where you're a little bit in the more in the moment. You can tap into more of the cultural trends. I'm sort of a huge pop culture person. I watch the crappiest of TV and would love to work with some of these Bravo stars. And, there's no way that my company right now is going to work with some of those characters. So I do think, there is a bit of, fun that I think, maybe I miss a little bit from the B2B side, living in a little more in the moment, a little bit more open about the emotional connections that we're trying to make. Sometimes my leadership says, no, our decisions are not made on emotion. In fact, we're always trying to take emotion out of investment decisions and have, people really feel like the data is driving it, or that they're they have conviction because of the analyses and the rigor and the discipline. And sometimes I miss a little of the sparkle.
Of course. Well, and I think it's also sort of hard to think, like to the point that you make, that with humans at the end of every decision, could emotion really not be part of the equation, right? Is that even possible to fully remove emotion, as much as we love to justify with
It's
data?
not. And educating our leaders on the fact that, we keep talking to them about emotional benefits as opposed to emotion. We'll say, let's just make a full pyramid for our brand. We're going to have functional benefits. We're going to have attributes. We're going to have products and strategies. But how about let's just complete the pyramid and really understand the emotional benefit that we're bringing to our audience, and do sometimes some different kind of research that could help us drive better engagement when we do go beneath the surface a little bit and try and uncover some of those emotional connections that I think make people pay a little more attention to what we're doing.
Yeah, no, I completely. I mean, they're humans who need phone charges and a chance to hold a puppy, right? Like, I mean, just to just to bring it back. I mean, who doesn't? Um, and
True.
Judy, Judy, you're coming at this from such a like sort of. I feel like credit unions are often so directly engaged with their customers, right? And we were even talking on this call before about how you have groups who are just really engaged and invested customers. Can you talk a little bit about, sort of the personalization, how you see marketing's role in engagement specific to the credit union industry?
Sure. Jamie, I'm right there with you, by the way, just on crappiest of TV. I've got a 16-year-old daughter, so we watch a lot of the Kardashians and old school Gossip Girl. So I'm with you on that one. Shaking my head at myself sometimes. Anyway, I will get back to the question.
Yeah.
I was talking a little bit with for everybody who's on the larger call here. When we were doing the prep sessions, I was talking earlier with Ashley and with Jamie and Beth about how our origins here at DCU are that we were formed from a pioneering computer tech company called Digital Equipment Corp. And in 1979, there were a group of employees who came together from DEC, and they said, "Hey, we need to have our own credit union," and thus we were formed. So we definitely have, I think, the last count I was told, maybe about 10% of our member base, they are what we call ex-decies. And they are very, very proud of the fact that they worked for Digital Equipment Corp because it was one of the pioneering first computer companies, things like that. And some of those people who helped start the credit union are within our membership base, and they're very proud of that work that they've done. So we've got 10% of our member base has this really emotional vested interest in DCU. And so we hear a lot from them. And, I won't dwell too much on this, but at the end of September, we announced our intent to merge with another credit union on the West Coast called First Tech. We definitely had members who had thoughts and feelings and questions on that. And, as you do with any merger. And I think that I came together with folks on the marketing side here at DCU, and we were just making sure that we were putting together, extra channels where our members could reach out to us. We have a portal that is on our merger landing page that's on our corporate website. We put together just a separate email inbox so that any members that had questions about the merger or anything like that, then they could just come directly, to me and to somebody else on my team and ask those questions. And what we found is that, when you're dealing with people that have concerns or feedback, and this is not just about the merger, but I think anything that we face is that, people just want to be listened to. They just want to know that there's another human being on the other side of the screen, the phone line, the email, that's hearing them, that has some empathy for what they're thinking and for what they're saying. And that has really helped us a lot, across the board with any of our member communications. Whether it's a member who comes to us and says, I don't understand what's going on with my auto loan, or can you please help me try to figure out what I should be doing to save for college for my children. It's really just about listening. And I think we're in a world where, AI, it's wonderful. It has so many benefits, but it really has kind of, it's made people think that now when you're dealing with any sort of an enterprise, a corporation, a company, that they're just going to kind of get AI'd, right? And that the responses are just going to be from some computer. And for us, it's really about just making sure that we are reaching out to these members when they have questions, feedback, concerns, that we're engaging with them on a human level. We're making sure that they know that this is not just some bot at the end of the line. There are definitely times when we respond to our our members with feedback and concerns that they have, where it doesn't come from like one of our corporate inboxes. We make sure that there's, you know, a name that's attached there. We do have a member resolutions team that sits within our information center, and so if there's anybody that just is very is very concerned or upset about something, then they get elevated to that team that just handles it with a lot of empathy, tact, grace, and that human touch. We're finding it goes such a long way. We always talk a lot here about, you know, any of more of you know, if we have anybody who is concerned or upset and they're delivering feedback that could be negative, you know, we talk a little bit about how we're trying to really convert our ops to our advocates, and that's really helped us a lot. Is just really having that human touch.
Yeah, it's funny. We seem to keep coming back. I guess not surprisingly, in the subject of engagement and, you know, really creating true bonds with customers, we keep coming back to this idea that humans are humans and want something that engages them in that way. I have a ton more questions, but I'm also seeing that in the chat we're getting some really interesting questions in the chat. So I'm actually going to go ahead and skip over to that so that we can address a few of the audience questions here. I see one of our members, and Beth, this one's definitely for you. He's asking about government regulations that are restricting, eliminating, causing any hurdles for loyalty programs. I happen to know that this customer is based in the U.S. So in the U.S., because I know you're in Canada there, Beth, but I know you do a good portion of your business in the U.S. But can you talk a little bit about government regulation around loyalty and rewards programs?
Yeah, so definitely there has been some scrutiny across over the past while, looking at loyalty programs amongst the various industries, looking to ensure, you know, fairness and transparency. So as it stands now, Ashley, there's no widespread move to eliminate these programs, but it definitely is being looked at. But at this point, there isn't any plans, any movement to eliminate them.
Okay, that's great to know. And I think this next one might be pretty directly for Jaime, with a question about, you know, are institutional investors also hungering for more in-person, or would you say that's a more retail-focused kind of thought? And I'm interested to hear your answer there. But what are you seeing in terms of people wanting to be in person versus digital?
I would say we're really seeing it on the institutional side, where when we have recently, I'll just use an example. We had a big meeting, and there was a big event associated at a similar time in the region, and one of our leaders was not going to stay because they were like, you know, that's just a big industry event. And we heard from several clients comparing us to other asset managers and the level of leadership that was represented there, and they sort of questioned the decision of not being there. And so I think that on the institutional side, there is a lot of research that has to be done. So it's not that it's an either or, but we're definitely sort of feeling the desire to have a personal relationship, particularly with those partners who want strategic level conversation to happen. And we don't want to be a tactical partner a lot of times. We really want to be a strategic partner. We want to hear what their challenges are beyond just maybe the one product or service they might be with us, you know, using with us now. So I think that it's definitely on the institutional side, and we are seeing more both bespoke events that are attendance and participation is high on, as well as when we go to events where, you know, you can be a sponsor, you know, industry events.
Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think that ties in a lot with all of the things we're saying, is that there's just a lot more hunger for these interactions. Now let's talk on almost completely the other end of the spectrum about Gen Z. Of course, there's going to be a question about Gen Z. I love this. Thank you, Kate. So when we're dealing with Gen Z, specific engagement strategies that seem to be resonating. I mean, I know this is a group that many of us have struggled to address properly. So this one's open to anybody. Engagement strategies that we found resonate with Gen Z.
I can maybe kick us
So
off.
I'll share for us, the majority of our.
Go for it, Jamie.
Jamie, you go.
I'll share for us, the majority of our target audience is older. So when we think about Gen Z, we're thinking about a number of things. One is engagement for recruitment. So how do we do things to get them to understand? I mean, PGIM is a new brand name compared to, a very well-known group of competitors. So even for attracting good talent, we think a lot about engagement, and that's where some of our Gen Z efforts are. We think about the organizations that they may belong to, where they're getting their training or where they're networking. So we look a lot into those relationships and try and be in those kinds of places. The final thing I'll share is we do our own training program where we have senior clients recommend a junior in their team, and we go through sort of a little bit of an industry training program for those high potentials in their organization. And I think that's been a really successful way that we've been able to engage with a group of Gen Z people in a very, again, personal way. It's an in-person training program for high potentials.
And a long-term investment for PGIM in terms of where these people are headed, and that they're people who you want to be connected with long-term. Beth, I think you had some comments on this as well.
Yeah, so we recently conducted a Harris poll, just surveying adults on their card preferences and usage related to loyalty and rewards. And obviously, baby boomers are tend to be the most likely to be influenced by loyalty and rewards programs. But it also showed that Gen Z was as well at 40% of them, so influenced by these types of programs. But I think the difference between sort of what a traditional program, which would appeal to an older audience that we've talked about, obviously Gen Z is looking more for like that digital first and experience oriented type of offers. So things that are a little bit more instant gratification pop up that you can pay with points in lane at a store, get that complimentary coffee. Gamification is another strategy that is really resonating with Gen Z, and also more purpose-driven brands, so things towards sustainability, environmental, that type of thing. So that's what we're finding from a Gen Z perspective.
That's great.
Ashley, if I can add on something, and I will be brief, I promise. We're starting to discuss building some surveys and things like that around Generation Z and a lot of their financial habits. So more to come on that one. But one thing that we have stood up, and this is with the member experience team, we've stood up a member collaboration hub where we have just a cross section of all of our members that are represented there. And, it's basically, I'd like to think of it as a digital focus group where we're constantly interacting with those members. We're, doing mini surveys with them, where we're kind of road testing some of our communications and our messaging and some of the ideas that we have. And it's in its early stages, but I think it's been really helpful. I think also that, we all know that Gen Z is very focused on, Beth just touched on this, on, really being aligned with and supporting purpose-driven, mission-driven organizations. And you can't get much more pure play in terms of really helping individuals and families and small businesses with their financial wellness than you can with a credit union, right? Meaning no disrespect to my colleague there who's at PGIM, who's more institutional, but that's our main stakeholder. It's the members. We're member owned. We're member run because, like I said, all the employees were members, and it is something that we highlight in a lot of our messages and our communications, that we are very purpose driven, just given that we are a credit union, and it's something. I also talked a little bit about the personas. And there definitely there's a Gen Z who is a Gen Z persona that is very well represented. And so it's something that, like I said, we're trying to kind of put a more human face on the exact segments of our members with that work.
Yeah. No, I think
that's great. You have such an authentic story.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. It's great.
There's so many interesting ways. I think Gen Z is a ongoing conversation within our industry right now because the way that you engage with that group is so different. I'm going to hit one more question and then we're going to go to sort of a final round here. One more audience question, but I thought this one's for Judith and Jaime. Would love to ask the type of content that perform best for financial audiences, especially when we're considering compliance issues. Would investor influencer marketing be off the table? So I'm interested in that. Influencer marketing, is this one way you engage? Is it not a way you engage? I don't know if either of you are doing any influencer work.
Jaime, do you mind if I take that really quickly?
Well, it depends on how you go. Yeah.
I'm taking this, my interpretation of this is we're talking about the finfluencers that are out there on TikTok and all of the other channels. Right, that has come up in a lot of the conversations that my marketing colleagues here at DCU and I are having. But it's, I'm looking at the questions that are coming through here, and yeah, I mean, you're hitting the nail on the head with this, is that we have to be so careful because of compliance issues. Because as we all know, financial services is one of the most heavily regulated industries in this country. So we've got to be really careful about that. It's something that we're looking at, we're investigating, but we have not really dipped our toe in with that right now. Really what we're trying to do right now is we're trying to have, we're trying to develop our own owned content around things like financial literacy, budgeting, a lot of those sorts of topics, and then push those out more through our owned channels. And we're trying to make it come alive a little bit more by using more video work. If you go to any of our social media channels, you will see that we definitely lean pretty heavily on video around here. And if it's not in the cards for us to collaborate with one of the finfluencers, we're trying to kind of bring more of that experience as much as we can to our own channels.
That's great. What about you, Jaime?
So I was going to say the definition of influencer, could be different in our world. So I came before PGIM from JP Morgan Asset Management, and we had Dr. David Kelly. Quite honestly, I couldn't have asked for a better spokesperson for the brand to be seen as a thought leader. He's, one of the most well-respected economists in the world. So he really is an influencer. And what was funny is they weren't necessarily using him as a marketing influencer. And when I told him he could be in our ads or on our social feeds, and I wanted to videotape him a lot, he was very excited and thought, "Ooh, this is different." And we began to use him, like an influencer. So I'm very much a fan of making sure that we, think about the voices in our industry that people want to hear from, and those are the influencers. But then, as can tell, I also like to be connected to culture. When I first got to PGIM, I launched a brand platform called The Pursuit of Outperformance. And we did a launch little video series called The Outperformers. But in that series, and it was very limited and it was social first, we had Magic Johnson and Yo-Yo Ma. So I like to span the spectrum of voices and influencers that can, again, attract attention, get people to be interested in our brand. You never know which kind of story is going to get them to kind of pay attention to you, knowing that truthfully they are bombarded by all of us every day.
I'm a big fan of that podcast that you do, by the way, Jaime. Huge. You've done such the content over there. It's amazing.
Love it. Love it. Well, we are getting close to time.
Yeah.
So although there are 100 more questions that I'd like to ask you all, I'm going to do a quick lightning round. Where do we see customer engagement evolving? Where do you see a next step or an interesting trend or changes that you're anticipating? I'll let Beth go first.
Sure. Thanks, Ashley. So I think consumers are increasingly viewing rewards as a form of currency. So, which means their value is really integral to the shopping experiences, how consumers shop, spend, and engage with brands. So, brands that offer, and I'm noticing just in the chat that Denise posted an article about. Members not using their points. And I think that kind of knits back together to what we've been talking about. It's really important that brands offer sort of meaningful rewards beyond just sort of your standard cashback options. So things that really appeal to members, that personalization that we were talking about, and creating that awareness of the loyalty program. We talked about that at the very beginning. Some people don't even know that they're earning points with some of their financial tools or banking tools. So creating that awareness, and then also offering those sort of perks, rewards, elevated experiences that will are the ingredients for a vital and loyalty program.
Love it. Jaime, what about you?
Well, I can't believe we've been through almost an hour and not used the letters AI. So I feel like we would be remiss to say, part of that hyper person.
You had to go there, right?
Sort of when I think of the trends and Beth and I'm the hugest fan of Writer right now, so I feel like part of the trends I think really are in terms of driving engagement is that personalization that Beth and mentioned earlier at the beginning. And I think the tools that we're going to have at our disposal, the way we're going to be able to use them to be more conversational, the way we're going to be able to use them to kind of maybe expand our presence across channels in a more efficient way, the way we'll be able to tailor and target, all those things. So I feel excited that, the probably the future and the metrics that we'll use will become much more sophisticated in terms of how we can segment, how we can personalize. So I think it's exciting what's to come.
Absolutely. And Judy, you get the last word.
We are looking into all sorts of things about how we can leverage AI more and more, but I'm going to focus something that's on the other end of the spectrum. I think for us, it's really about when you're a financial services firm, whether you're a credit union, whether you're fintech, whether you're, a big bank, it's really about how can you kind of distinguish yourselves and really jump out. And, I think for us, it's really been about, making those connections, showing more of the human side, showing that we're involved in the communities in which we operate, in which we serve. And, I talked a little bit about how we came out of deck, and we've got our ex-deckies who are our members, and it's such a proud emotional link that they have, and it's something that we're always looking to try to replicate that with all the rest of our members, and I think we do a really good job of it, actually. We're also just looking for those ways that we can make connections. One thing, we also have we have a large South Asian audience in our member base. And last year we did a partnership with Willow TV around some of the big cricket championship games that were going on here in the U.S. And those are the kind of things that we're really trying to make sure that our members feel like that this is not just it's not just your bank. It's also a place that sees you as a human, sees you as a person, and is really trying to make those connections with you. It's something that we definitely bring out in both the communications and the marketing side of things.
I love it. Almost all approaches to how we are going to get more personal in different ways, right? So I think maybe my takeaway on that last one is personal, custom, personal. But I really appreciate all of you being here. Beth, Judy, Jaime, your insights have been absolutely fantastic. I want to thank RewardOps for very kindly making this webinar possible today. This has been a lovely conversation. I only wish we had another hour to address everything that is happening, both in the chat and private messages that I'm getting. So thank you all so much. As a reminder, just from a financial narrative side, 2 reminders. First off, if you have not filled in the salary survey yet, please fill in the salary survey. You can click above. Look at that lovely little floating thing above. You can click on the link above to fill in the salary survey. We only have another week to go, and the more data we get, the more helpful we can be with your hiring, your recruiting, your next job, etc. So please do fill in that salary survey. And we have lots of more events coming up. If you are someone who wants to attend our summit this year, April 29th, mark your calendars. Announcements coming soon, but you heard it here first. April 29th in New York, we will be there. And I hope to see all of you. Thank you so much to our panelists, and thank you to our audience who really participated so much in this chat, and that always makes it a more lively and interesting session. See you all next time.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.